Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else. Welcome to another episode of the DewatchPod podcast. What is caressing your ears right now is the crisp sound of our new microphone.
New microphone. We are real podcasters now, because it is RGB and it's being very gay.
Yeah, we did unfortunately get the gamer microphone. However, before we get there, we have a bit of a content warning for this episode, because the episode of Black Mirror we're discussing today, we're giving up on giving specific content warnings, issuing a blanket content warning, and recommending that you look at the episode's content warnings.
This one's got a lot in it.
Yeah, this one's got a smorgasbord,
Yeah.
and that's right. We've got another smorgasbord. I am Jorgen Smorgasbord.
And I'm Jim with a G. And a content warning for you to see. I'm so glad we're getting back into this.
So, to start with, after we've gotten all that admin out of the way, do we recommend seeing
we should introduce it, because today we watched Black Museum, the final episode of the fourth season.
The fourth season.
Man, I can't believe we've been doing this for 6, but like backwards. This is our 3rd season we're finishing off.
We'll be finishing it off next time proper style.
True.
But yeah, no, do we recommend people watch the Black Museum as a companion?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I feel like there's a lot to break down.
So, like the first half, you could stop after the first half.
Not unfair, yeah. It is one of those episodes that, and like we're gonna get into this, nails the entertainment value for me personally. The deeper aspects have some finagling. But I would say, yes, at the absolute least, the first half is very good. Truly bizarre and grotesque in kind of a...
Yeah, no, like, I guess the main reason, like, this episode is, like, deeply unpleasant in not, like, an entertaining way, which is why... It is also unpleasant in an entertaining way, but separately from that, it is deeply unpleasant in a way that's not fun also.
It has layers.
With that said, I like, based on that, I cannot recommend this.
Really?
Yeah, no, this, there is no way I can be sure that you will have a decent time, even, because it goes into some places and it goes there badly. And, like, it's not worth it necessarily, and while there's good stuff, like, you can watch something good instead.
May I propose, like, before we really get deep into it, a bit of a way to frame this episode? I think it is Black Mirror extra. It is extra Black Mirror in many different ways.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that it is bombastic, it is dramatic, it has a spark of humor in it. Some of it, I suspect, as usual, unintentional. But I think if you theoretically like Black Mirror, I think you'll like this episode, is my thought on it.
I suppose. But, all that being said, let's dive into a quick summary. So, this episode, we are being told 3 stories.
Yeah. And
these 3 stories have a framing story. That is, I guess, our 4th story.
Yeah, do you think it's weird to do an anthology episode in an anthology series?
I thought that was, like, a cute idea. And I probably have more to say on that. That's too extensive for this section.
Very fair.
So, the framing story is a young Black woman arrives at a museum called the Black Museum.
Yeah, and it's very warm. Also, we promise it's important that she's Black.
Yeah, no, that is plot relevant information.
Yeah.
She's plot relevant Black. This is not like Striking Vipers.
Yeah, that
people are ambiently Black, which we approve of, I think, more than this.
Yeah, I think it's complicated, but I think the difference here is the striking vipers is ambiently black, but it serves the greater purpose of not making it look like a bunch of white nerds. But yes, we have this young black woman. She's driving out in what I'm just gonna take a stab is like Nevada.
It's that vibe.
Yeah, like it's hot English desert, right? Like it sucks.
Hot American desert.
Well, I mean like Anglophile.
I see. Yeah, and she arrives at the Black Museum, and we understand that this is incidental. And she's like, well, I gotta charge my car using these collapsible solar panels for a bit.
Yeah, which is like, okay, sure, neat.
So I might as well stop in this nice museum. You know, this is sort of part of the great American tradition of roadside attractions.
Yeah.
And
it does look like it is not the most popular one, but she decides to stop, and that is where we meet the best boy, who might also be the worst boy, to be fair.
Absolutely. We meet the devil.
Douglas Hodge.
Is the actor.
Yeah.
To be clear.
Yes.
And
he really goes for it.
Yeah, the way I phrased this while we were talking during the episode is that his intensity setting does not go below 6 or 7.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Like he really pours his heart into it.
Yeah, no, he is always acting, and like we like this man.
Yeah, and I think it's important also to nail that his vibe is like if you were buying tomatoes from this man, you'd assume that every one of them was poisoned.
Well, you would assume that they were somehow off the back of a stolen truck, that some of them were moldy, that they were somehow grown against regulations.
It just feels like a man who would commit crime even when it's against his best interest.
Yeah, no, he oozes sleaze.
The most sleazy person, and I think like it takes a second before it like really kicks in, but when it's in, boy.
No, and he's the proprietor of the Black Museum.
And what is the Black Museum, Jordan?
Yeah, the Black Museum is basically like crime and not actually specifically serial murder, but it's got that vibe. Paraphernalia.
It is true crime heaven. Is the vibe of it, but it's like it's all tech stuff, right? Like I think we even get to see. I don't know if you spotted this, but I think the like DNA copying machine from USS Callister is in there.
Oh, not at all.
Okay, fair enough. I think I saw it because there's like a lollipop and stuff.
Yeah, no, this is definitely one of those episodes where there's enough ambient sci-fi nonsense to just like place a lot of Easter eggs.
Yeah. But yeah, like, and he has this horrific museum filled with horrific stuff, right? And he's starting to show around our dear Letitia Wright around the place.
Who is said young black woman.
Yes.
And she is sort of, she's like, oh yeah, no, I'm just an English tourist, whatever. And the first story that we are told through the framing device of this museum is apparently adapted from I want to say, if I recall correctly, Penn Jillette short story.
Yeah, I saw it was from a short story, yeah.
Yes.
At the very least.
Not certain I've got the writer right. But yeah, no, the short story is, in short, a doctor who is not doing so good gets sold by our sleazy, both museum proprietor, but former medtech experimental
recruiter, salesperson. He seems to have a lot of hats.
Yeah, the main hat is talking people into things.
Into horrible things.
Into experimental medicine.
You might start noticing the devil analogs here.
Oh yeah, no, he is going for fully like, you don't pay with money. And I
also feel we need to note here, because like we're the first story here is going to be about this doctor and about this their devil boy. They have a huge like skyscraper in New York, and the nice doctor is at the bottom, and the evil devil man is at the top. And I just like there's something very evocative about that, and because I think he gets introduced with like I'm from floor 10, and it's like ooh damn.
Huh. Oh, I just read that as metaphor. I didn't even realize.
I think it was literal.
Hot damn. But yeah, no, he's selling, he's pitching this doctor on the device that where he gets like a weird looking, like, this is like gnarly sci-fi. This is not like smooth sci-fi. A big fat implant where they put like a neural sort of like weave hat on a person.
Yeah.
He can sense that what their body is feeling.
Yeah.
And you know, he does this very entertaining pitch, and the doctor's like, well, my numbers are bad, and I guess if I can get the literal physical sensations of other people, they will not be hindered by language and conveying to me what's going wrong with them. So, like, we start off with a success story. You know, he instantly diagnoses people. He's like knocking things out of the park. He's like, oh yeah, no, I felt 1,000 appendices going bad. And, you know, he's like, oh, he's catching diseases people didn't even know they had.
And because this is Black Mirror, there is also like and he used it for sex.
Yeah, which, to be fair, I think that one we kind of have to give to them.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for multiple reasons.
Yeah, and of course, and this is where, like, briefly jump back to the framing story, it's like, but it is in the crime museum. So the way this story goes wrong is that he puts it on like a senator who looks weirdly like Lindsey Graham as he lays dying, and experiences what I'm going to term the ecstasy of death.
Yeah. They even go through the like they do have a nice touch of like sci-fi babble in this, where there's like, oh yeah, it's a tsunami of endorphins and stuff like that. So I don't know, I kind of like that they're trying to put in a little bit of justification.
To be fair, I think I've like half read some things about like, oh yeah, no, when you're dying, your brain is putting out endorphins like nothing else.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he like experiences this, and it fucks up his implant and him also in general.
Yeah, I think I want to come back to this at some point, because I think there's an interesting one here. But yeah, essentially, I don't know if it is meant to suggest that, because from here on out, he loves pain.
Oh yeah, he loves pain sexually.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, is it just sexual?
It is not just sexual. I don't know if, like, the exact mechanism is sort of left up to the imagination, but it's also sexual for sure.
And he becomes like a worse person because of it.
He becomes first he becomes addicted to other people's pain, and then he gets cut off because he's getting real bad with it. And then, you know, they're like, give me your badge and stethoscope. And he gets kicked out, and there's this absolutely gruesome sequence where it's like, I can inflict pain on myself, and I still like get off so hard.
And that doesn't work super well. We get a flashback to the devil saying, well, terror is what makes this even better. Like, without it, it's not just a full cocktail. And then he becomes...
Yeah, and there's also like the slippery chili slope.
Right, yes, we get that. Lots of jalapeno and related imagery in this season.
Oh yeah, I had some of that for lunch. Very good.
That sounds great.
There's still some in the fridge. And what happens next is he murders a homeless person with a drill, and
it's some hardcore stuff. It reminded me of Pi, for those of 5 of you out there who have seen that movie.
I haven't, and I fear at some point I might. But yeah, no, and that's the first story. And
the devil has collected a hairnet and has it in his museum, and we're left with, wow, that was really gory.
Yeah, it really, really was super gory. The next story is fairly. I think we're gonna get through this a bit faster because the next story is very simple. Boy meets girl. They have a kid. Girl gets hit by a really fast car that's not even braking. This took you out.
I know. It was just like, okay, usually Black Mirror sets these sorts of like tragic accidents up a bit more, but this is, she steps back into like this serene park, and then just from off screen.
Just like to flag this here, like this episode is very slapstick.
Yeah.
Like the first like short story is told like has like deep Dr. Soap vibes, and this one has like just a strange slapstick vibe to it, which I think is sort of the narrator sort of bleeding in.
Yeah, I want to say this one is a bit rom-com-y almost, but like it's a dark rom-com. Ooh.
Yeah. So again, Mr. Devilman shows up, and he's like, no. Your beautiful wife might be in a coma. Your beautiful partner, I don't know if it's specified.
I don't think so.
Might be in a coma, but
we can put her in your head.
Yeah. There's an intermediate step that doesn't matter. And yeah, no, like we get this like very strange like visual setup where like the actress who previously was coma dead is in a chair, in a singular cinema chair maybe, just watching this huge screen in front of her, and through the screen she is watching through her partner's eyes the world, and she's experiencing feelings and so on and so forth, and like she's experiencing sensation. This episode is all about transferring sensation.
Yeah, and they have about 30 seconds of the episode of which this works out, and then immediately goes like, wow, this sucks. I can't believe we didn't see this coming. That having two consciousnesses in one head is gonna cause some trouble.
Yeah, and you know, it goes badly and then it goes worse, and eventually Mr. Devilman shows back up and he's like, well, we can't put her into this plush monkey.
Yeah, and this is where I like really was like, wow, he just shows up to make the worst out of every possible situation, like to make everything like I'm gonna torment these sinners.
Yeah, no, there's definitely like there's definitely like a clear shift here, because the first one like had a bit of complexity. This one he's just like, no, let me offer you a deal that will just purely go all monkey's paw. And yeah, no, like that's it. She gets put in the monkey and she's in hell forever.
Yeah, she gets stuck in the monkey.
She's still in the monkey. They have the monkey in the museum. She's still in there.
She doesn't get to kill herself. She can barely communicate. Her kid like abandons her because
they don't explain to the kid, I don't think.
Not properly.
No.
Again, like the kid's mental state is gonna be oh boy, gonna make a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists very rich.
And then we move on to the final story.
Yeah.
And this one's like actually quite truncated, I would say.
Yeah, it's very upfront. A black person, a black man, and we kind of get the hints of this in the background previously in the story, actually. Is seemingly falsely accused of murder.
Well, I think they leave it fully ambiguous. He is like, I'm innocent. Do me DNA shit. And, you know, that is also what a guilty person would try, just like because he's on death row.
Yeah.
But like there's there's at least like very substantive indication that this is like at best a toss-up that he's guilty.
Yeah.
To sort of like read the episodes like pure vibe.
Sure, yeah. And
like probably more likely that he's innocent, but like it's never like clarified to any substantive degree.
The important part is that like seemingly this case became a media circus because the murder was very brutal and so on and so forth. And that leads us into, well, I think where the episode at least tries to say stuff.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Sure.
It sure speaks. Because we essentially have Devilman, now having been kicked off of his like meditech team, goes like,
I'm for putting a lady in a monkey.
Yeah. Now, which the UN has banned, notably, which I think is an extremely funny detail. Yeah. Like, I think it's, you know, for the recap episode, we should discuss that, because, like, apparently, like, the Archangel, which is also in this season, has, like, oh yeah, this is banned in Europe, we shouldn't do this. And I think that's very funny, like, meta-commentary.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, this man gets visited by the devil, and the devil's like, hey there, would you like to get some money for your family? There are no drawbacks to this. I just need to download your consciousness while you get electric chaired.
Yeah.
And he's like, money for my family? Absolutely.
And I'm probably gonna be proven innocent, right?
Yeah,
so
I'll get pardoned anyway, so
Yeah.
it'll be fine, whatever. But in case not, my money, my family won't be starving, which, like, legit.
Yeah.
And however, he is making a deal with not anyone but the devil. The devil at this point is getting desperate. So what the devil is doing and he does not get pardoned, and his consciousness is getting put in he gets turned into a black and white hologram.
Yeah, and put into like this actual physical cell, but yeah, it's a bit of like a mix of real space and tech.
Yes, and this is at the Black Museum now, because again, the devil has been fired for putting a white lady in a monkey plush.
Yeah.
And the pitch at his Black Museum is like, hey, you can execute this guy.
This supposedly terribly brutal serial killer, and you can basically make him be in pain forever. They duplicate his consciousness to make souvenirs of his pain, etc., etc. Right? Yeah. Like it is just like more hell, right? Like
yeah. Like no, this episode is definitely like sort of tangentially exploring different conceptions of hell.
Yeah. But yeah, it continues, and the devil gets continuously more desperate. Although I suppose that comes in a second, because first we get a bit of a reveal, right?
Yes, the reveal is that our lead, who so far has been a bit of a
passive one.
A bit of a passive one, a bit of an audience stand, and she's like, wow, that's kind of fucked up. Anyway, I'm his daughter and I poisoned you.
And I'm not British.
And I'm not British. To be fair, usually a good thing. Yes. However, in this case, a bit dangerous. And she does the reverse on him. And this one's kind of like a revenge like sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Because what she does is, first, she downloads his consciousness when he's dying, like what was done to her dad.
And while doing so, puts her dad's hologram, I suppose, out of its misery.
Yeah, so the second step is that the devil gets put into her dad's hologram in the back seat, like the second story lady was put into her partner's mind.
Yeah.
And then she mercy kills her dad.
Yeah.
And creates a eternal pain version of the devil.
Which
the whole as a souvenir.
Yeah, and the eternal pain is being play acted by Podcat.
Hello, Podcat.
Oh no.
The recording, I don't think, was disrupted.
I think we're good. Okay, we should leave that in. Yeah, make ourselves feel more authentic. But yeah, and then young black American woman leaves with the monkey and sets stuff on fire and then just drives off.
Yeah, and then also her mom is also watching from the back of her mind.
I want to, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, because they just mentioned that, like, apparently her mom had killed herself, but also uploaded her consciousness.
Well, I think she tried to kill herself, got comaed, and then the daughter's like, I can get you in the back of my mind.
Man, lots of
while I get revenge. Oh, yeah. And also, the lady who got put in the monkey plush gets to watch the revenge also, and gets taken with as a sidekick.
Yeah.
So this is like a story about revenge, I guess.
A little bit. I mean,
but
like
it's a bit confused.
I just want to put another thing for the recap episode. Lots of comas coming up.
Yeah. Wonder what's going on with Charlie Brooker. Hope everyone's all right.
Oh man, that would be a really sad thing to find out.
Yeah. I mean, well, it can't be him. He made more seasons.
Yeah, he's still making seasons. God, at some point we're gonna have to do season 7.
Yeah. Oh, no, we're gonna have to start over the podcast and then.
Yeah, I guess we have to scrub it from the internet and then pretend like season 7 was our first one, and just come up with some elaborate cover stories of why the mic sounds different. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. No, we'll buy a third mic.
Black Museum. Black Museum wants to say things, right? I think.
Yeah. No, like. I guess, like, the sort of main thing I have to work through to get to this episode is the absolutely brutal tonal whiplash I'm getting.
Okay.
Because...
Are you thinking about like the difference between the like full gore of like the first one and then like after Carrie, I believe her name is, in the second story is hit by the comically fast truck, suddenly things are a bit more somber?
Yeah, no, like, well, I think it's sort of like dependent on who's in control of the story, right? Because as long as it's our charming devilish lead, like he does not stop, and like he's sort of like degenerating a bit, like he's sort of collapsing a bit and like letting his evil slip through more. But like he fundamentally, like, he's like, oh yeah, no, I've got a Carney ancestry or whatever, like I've got a showman in me.
Yeah.
And he gives the whole thing like humor, and like the first story is genuinely told like very slapsticky, and that like sort of like the tone like is carried through as long as he's in charge of the story. And you know, it is getting darker, but like the real tonal shift is when the narrative control switches to Letitia Wright.
Yes.
Who is... I did that without looking at the screen, by the way.
Jorgen sure did. We're very proud of him.
And at this point, we're just getting... We are sort of confronted with like, haha, you enjoyed all this evilness because it was told funnily. Now we're going to sort of face some like gruesome realities about race and the prison industrial complex.
Yeah.
And that doesn't super gel with me with the first half of the episode, and I don't think it works as a sort of Spec Ops like, haha, you're privy to this twist.
Well, yeah, because like this episode really wants to be Spec Ops: The Line, and like remarkably sorry, because both the individual stories and the greater confining story is like, oh man, there's a lot of like pain and suffering, and watching it vicariously makes you enjoy it and stuff like that. And that really makes you as evil as this guy who drills a hole in a homeless person for his own sexual pleasure. And I'm just like, I don't buy it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on here, right? Because I think, to some extent, this is, like, a bit inadvertently Charlie Brooker's, like, fuck true crime streak bleeding through.
And we love that.
we are morally on board with that. Yeah. However, you know, I don't think he's ever pulled it off well.
Yeah. No, it's something he continues to work with to this day. Looking
forward to that in season 7.
Oh lord, yeah, there must be more of it, right? Mm-hmm. I can't imagine Charlie Brooker would give up on that fruitful orchard quite yet.
Never.
But yeah, no, like it's one of those things where like Spec Ops: The Line. Like I don't know the developers or anything, but like one of the things that made that game work, was that like, you know, the difference compared to Black Mirror is that Black Mirror has 3 seasons of this under the belt already.
Yeah. For the unsuspecting listener who has just been like hit by a speeding truck of gaming history, Spec Ops: The Line is a game where you first have a very straightforward shooter, and then it's like, haha, but you've been evil. And it does this well.
It does as well.
It is critically very well regarded.
Yeah, and like...
I haven't gotten that far in it because it's a bit difficult at one point, and I never got past that.
That's very understandable. No, but like the thing about this episode, I think, is like, it's saying like, oh, you guys are getting off on the pain and the suffering involved in this show, this episode, whatever, rings hollow, because like, are we? Like, that's not my impression of the Black Mirror audience, is that we go, oh, sick, I love when people are sad. Like, sure, you can talk about the catharsis and stuff like that, and that goes back to the fucking Greek tragedies, but like, there's a lot more to Black Mirror. Now, it doesn't necessarily pull it off particularly well a lot of the time, but there's more to it, and I do not think the suffering is necessarily what draws people in. It is an effective part of it, but it's like, the Black Mirror is not blood sports.
Yeah. And
like, doesn't it feel strange that, like, okay, I'm just gonna look, like, is this written by Charlie Brooker exclusively? Because I feel
well, it's based on a short story for one.
yeah, it is. This episode specifically is written by the Charlie Brooker. Oh yeah, Penn Jillette, you are right in that. And yeah, I'm just like, I feel like Charlie Brooker, like, if this is his critique of his own audience, which is always like, even beyond like, oh, I'm personally offended or whatever, that's kind of risky, right? But yeah, like, it feels like he doesn't understand what he created if this is his critique of it.
Yeah, no, and like, I'm not, like, I don't think this is like a bad reading, but I'm not sure it's like what the author necessarily intended, right? Because like what is also going on here is that the episode like has like this parade of like sickos who are like, oh hell yeah, I pulled the execution lever.
Yeah.
On the, well, first it's on some serial killer, and then it's just like people who want to execute a black man.
Yeah.
And that is like very explicitly said.
Yes.
And like, it is just sort of going like, look at these people, they're awful. And it is sort of like fighting these twin battles where it's like, oh yeah, no, racism, sure bad. And it's also like more generally sort of like this sort of sadistic true crime route, right? And those are like, I don't think they like amplify each other. Like, I don't think they cohere into a larger thing well.
Here's the thing. Like, I think that there's... Listen, I know this is a thing we say a lot on this podcast. There is potential here, where you could have discussed, like, true crime, sort of like amplifying, well, real crimes and stuff like that. And frequently, you know, like, black men are going to be more likely to be, like, accused of these things, and they're going to create these juicy stories and stuff like that. There is something there, at least from the outside to me, that like you could make something with, but they don't. But they don't really dig deep enough into it to really get there. It's just like, to be clear, suffering or like enjoying other people's pain, as perhaps Black Mirror suggests it itself is about, is bad and makes you a sicko. And also, racism is bad.
Yeah.
And they can be vaguely tied together. Yeah,
exactly.
And it's like you need to look at processes. You need to look at something deeper than just like, yeah, sometimes racists like seeing black people suffer. I'm like, sure. Yeah, like, I mean, like, you know, like, there's something interesting there, because I don't think I've watched a single true crime thing in my life. But I can tell you that, like, certainly there's, if you look at YouTube, people making fun of like, oh yes, we're getting these feminists or these annoying queers or whatever. Like, that's a genre, right, of like pranks or like stuff like that, right? Like, and I don't think that sort of thing is surprising. That has been the desire for sort of like either vengeance or like justified mockery, humiliation, perhaps in violence of people we don't like, has been with us for a very long time.
Yeah, like righteous indignation.
Yes.
It's like an evergreen product.
And I think this episode does at least try to talk a little bit about that. It's like, clearly, this is an instinct that can be led astray. It can be led to punish someone who might not be responsible for it. Like, but also, like, that's, to me, a bit, I think, where this episode starts failing for me. Because I feel like the episode is trying to say the following. It's bad that this alleged murderer is being punished infinitely and having his consciousness replicated in order to punish him even more infinitely, because he might be innocent. Because the devil gets put into the same position of being punished infinitely, and we're supposed to potentially think that's okay?
Yeah. No, like, I think that's sort of a strange flourish going awry, because, like, you're right, but I think, like, another thing that is going on in the writing is that it was purposefully ambiguous whether this guy did it or not, so that we're supposed to think, like, well, doesn't really matter whether he did it, right? Like, that's something you can see there, and then it's like, oh, but they make these souvenirs and vengeance rules, actually.
Yeah. I feel like this is one of those times where Black Mirror really wants to be like this narrative, really lovely circle, right? Like, this is the karmic retribution that completely undermines the point it's trying to make in the moment, right? It's like saying, like, revenge is bad, and we're gonna get back at them for doing revenge.
Yeah. No, like, it's... Like, it is, like, also fully, like, oh, yeah, no, everyone, like, gets together and has revenge on this guy.
Yeah, like, it's
Except
like
for, like, someone from the first story, because they don't have someone injured from that.
Yeah, the first story, I think, is weirdly disconnected from the others, but...
Yeah, because it's a good story that sort of got yanked into
and it's
this.
told effectively, might I add.
Yeah.
Like, I think this episode, at the very least, it is not bad in terms of time usage, I think.
No, it's very dense.
Yeah, it's and I really do have to compliment on it for that. Apart from the start is a bit slow, but whatever. Yeah, I'll very much allow them that.
Yeah, no, and they like really step on the gas.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know, like,
very quickly.
We like, it is sort of nice to like let us sit with this like sort of like silly guy for a bit until like he sort of like starts doing like too many flourishes. Right, like we sort of get like deeper and deeper into this man's depravity.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's just this like I really do think this is one of those sad symptoms of Black Mirror's love of twists, right? And this isn't quite like fully a twist, but the like sort of narrative circularity, the narrative like beauty of like, yeah, he gets exposed to the thing he did, completely undermining like the deeper look into the messages and themes of the episode.
Yeah, no, and it's because like, and I guess this is like as good a time as any to like go into the episode more as a structural piece, right? Because this episode like sort of like is in like a vague way like a far better Black Mirror than like regular Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Because regular Black Mirror, like, you know, like it's not doing much with the anthology format. And here they're like, all right, we're going to do like a mini anthology, and they're going to be very clearly linked, right?
Yeah, and they show that they can do it for the most part.
And like, we don't have twists in these mini stories, really. Like, they're just like a thing that goes very badly. And like, you know, I don't know if you could do that with every Black Mirror thing, but like, it's a good story told well.
Yeah.
Especially like the first one, at least. Then it sort of like teeters, but you know, and it's 3 stories that are connected. It's 4 stories that are connected, right? And you have this through line, and it's sort of like it's looking at different thematic parts of this, and then we eventually get into the twist zone, and we're like, oh man,
please stop.
Back at it again, huh, Brooker?
Yeah, like I don't know, like I think this episode is so fascinating to look at structurally, right?
Yeah.
Because again, as you say, the first story, very good, silly, but like it's black comedy and like a you know modern. It's like a Goosebumps story, right? But for particularly edgy adults, like it just works. And it's interesting to me really because like the thing that fascinates me, I suppose, is the way that like that story completely irrelevant to the rest of the plot. Apart from just setting up the like, oh yeah, he gets off on other people's pain. Isn't it fucked up? That kind of like helps go into the general sort of like interpretation of audience criticism, stuff like that. But then you have the other 2 stories. Obviously the last story is just like part of the bigger story here. And the second story about like the woman being trapped in her partner's head kind of gets mushed back into the conclusion where it's like, oh yeah, and she had her mom in her head.
Yeah, no, I don't think the second story is actually doing anything at all.
No. Like it's
I feel
it's
like
voyeuristic, right? Like it's talking about voyeurism, but in the most like, yeah, voyeurism is happening, but like
we're not doing much with it.
Exactly.
And like it's not doing much for the structure of the story, and I feel like it's just one of those things where they're like, well, we have this idea and it's not a full episode, but we have a little bit of a niche here.
Like it's a fun, like it's a fine 6 out of 10 story. Like, and the thing that also just gets me is just how much the conclusion feels the like the writer looks at all of the threads and goes, I'm gonna have to pull all of these together at the very end. Like, she grabs the monkey plush, like, she gets the souvenirs, she talks like, did I do good, Mom? And then her mom is in her head and she's like, yeah. Like, I'm honestly surprised they didn't mush the first story about the pain doctor into it as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, there is, like, a bit of, like, thematic weaving here, right? Because, like, the first story is sort of about sadism, masochism, voyeurism, like, through some, like, technological mediation, and it goes about approaching the topic in, like, a fairly oblique and, oddly interesting way, right? And the second story is about, well, it is, like, pure, it's more like the main examination here. Like, there's a bit of resonance here, but the main thing it pulls into the whole thing is, hey, here's an insane idea about being in hell, right? It's like, here's a hell technology that makes a hell.
Here's the thing that deprives you of all your agency and your partner of all their privacy.
Yes.
And they say that explicitly in the episode, I should say, but, like, sure, like, that's horrible, my dude.
Yeah.
Why did you invent this device?
And then in a third and fourth story, which for the sake of this are the same, we have both of those intersecting, right? We have sadism, technology, and hell. And, you know, in that sense, like, but the second story does have a bit more of a place. I just don't think it, like, gets there all the way. But, like, in that sense, it, like, structurally makes a bit more sense.
I could see it. It's just a thing that, like, I think you're right in the sense that it doesn't feel like it adds anything. Like, it thinks it would be awkward, obviously, to only have 2 stories. Like, that's a weird arc number. But, like, sadism is all you need, really, to establish the third one, in combination with the, like, sort of righteous indignation imposed by the, like, oh, I'm getting back at a serial killer. Or, well, I guess it was just a single killer. Let's not give stolen valor here.
I think that's unclear. Like, it reads like a serial killer, but it might just be, like, one killing, actually.
I thought it was just, like, a particularly brutal killing.
Yeah, it's, like, but we're definitely given, like, the vibe that this guy is, like, if not serial killer, he's definitely, like, treated as, like, a famous killer, which, you know, a lot of overlap.
Yeah, like, it almost makes me think that, like, I would rather have had the second story be about something to do with, like, righteous indignation or, like, karmic justice and stuff like that. But obviously, the points that Black Mirror wants to make about that are functionally almost inseparable from sadism, right? So it would be like treading on the same ground, but that means that the second story also hangs loose, right? In a sense.
Yeah, no, like, it's about, like, I guess it's about getting us to tangle sort of with, like, the situation, right? With this concept of, like, no agency, of being trapped. But, like, it's, I know.
I also think that there is a second addiction Black Mirror has. Okay, maybe a second, like, there's a lot of them, but this one, Black Mirror really likes consciousness being transferred, like, digitally. And I get it. Like, that shit's been on people's mind, you know, for a while now. Arguably just getting more and more, like, relevant. I'm sure there would have been some pretty ham-fisted part about AI here if this was made 8 years later or so. Really? But yeah, like, it's just, it doesn't have to be there, right? Like, especially when it becomes, like, twice in one episode that they have this, like, separate consciousness transfer talk, but it doesn't feel like they tie into each other very well, you know?
Yeah.
Because one about them is about, like, the voyeurism of being stuck in someone else's head. The other one is about being stuck in, like, a hell of straight up pain.
Like, that's just purely, like, sort of a problem of, like, practicality.
Yeah. And I feel like it's also strange, like, to me, because, like, if you're going off of the theory that this is a lot about, like, audience criticism and being like, oh, you guys are sickos because you enjoy all the pain we show you and the pain we spend our entire lives making for you to see. The voyeurism that they talk about in the second short story, does it feel relevant to that? Because to me it doesn't.
I don't know. I like, I'm trying to think about it as, like, a thing about voyeurism, and I just don't get there.
Because it's about, like, having...
It should be, and it's not.
Yeah, like, it's about a man, like, and you can take different perspectives on this, but, like, if you're taking the voyeurism perspective, right, it's about this woman being forcibly, admittedly, but still, like, having access to his entire private life.
Yeah.
In a way that, like, even as his partner, she wouldn't have. And she admittedly, like, again, she didn't choose to be there, but she also does not exactly seem to give him a lot of leeway on anything that she sees.
No, like, I don't know, like, the story can't really breathe, because, like, what's really interesting about that story is, like, the potential sort of exploration of, like, a very complex social dynamic. And we just don't do that. We're just like, oh man,
Yeah.
hell is other people, huh?
Yeah, I think also, like, the thing that really started, and I mean, like, I think we both started giggling a bit at this point is when, like, you know, what if we put her in a monkey? Like, in a monkey flesh, it's like, where it's really like, oh no, Black Mirror, come on. Because that one, this is gonna be really mean, but the thing that reminds me of most is the, like, oh shame, the baby was born blind even, from from a previous episode we did. You know, like, it's just like, this just seems pointlessly over the top, you know? Like,
yeah, I've got jumping the shark written down here.
Okay, I'm glad that resonates.
I don't know when I wrote that down, actually.
I don't know, like, I feel like it's in there, right? Because, like, the first story is so over the top from the start, like, it feels established, and then you have this, like, kind of somber, like, oh yeah, like, you're giving this coma patient kind of back her life a little bit.
Like, I think that, and then we get, like, real wacky with it again for a second, and then we go into the prison industrial complex. It's evil to black people.
Which,
and,
yeah,
like,
we know.
And it's just, like, that, you can't do that in a slapstick tone, but you just were doing, like, a reversal to, like, a bizarre slapstick tone.
Yeah, like, the monkey plush is, like, so over the top, because at that point you go, like, hey, couldn't you, like, put them in, like, a robot? Like, it doesn't even have to be a good robot. Just, like, anything.
Yeah.
Why did you have to put them in, like, the most, like, demeaning situation possible?
Yeah, no, I guess he's just really is the devil.
Yeah, like, I think that is the logical conclusion of this show, is that Rollo Haynes, aka Douglas Hodge, is the devil, and he shows up to be like, would you like me to make the worst possible hell out of this situation?
Yeah, would you like me to make this worse with technology? And I know, I guess you can, like, extract meta commentary from that.
It's very tech. Do you think Charlie Brooker wrote Rollo Haynes as a stand-in for himself?
I mean, like, there is like something interesting about his delivery of everything, right? He is, like, the showmanship of it all is, like, very fascinating. But yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely something in there, but I reckon he doesn't think of himself as the devil.
Maybe not, but I don't know. Like, it's. I don't know how to feel about this episode, I will say, because I do think there is some truth to the fact that this shows them that they can. This shows that they can at least, sort of, make a more focused anthology, right? Like something that actually deals with at least similar themes.
Yeah.
And, like, obviously, it's only slightly longer than a normal episode. I can even forgive them for it not being that, like, coherent and tight. But it does raise the question of, like, why don't they just do this on a season level?
Yeah, no, and, like, the other thing is, like, why do they need to tie it together in the end? Right, like, it's... Like, that's sort of where it falls, if anything.
Yeah, I think the thing that strikes me, too, is just how, like, I feel like someone heard, like, okay, if you're making, like, an anthology of short stories, they need to tie together. And Charlie Brooker and his team heard it, got it, she needs to rescue the monkey plush, and
have her mom in her head.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe they...
And have the guy who is in hell eternally as a souvenir.
Yeah.
And
then they kind of forgot about the pain doctor. But, you know, like, I'm sure he's laying it up.
It's 2 out of 3. It's 3 out of 4.
Yeah. I feel like the thing that would really tie it off him is if she goes to the hospital where he's in his, like, bliss coma and goes like, hi, adoptive dad.
But yeah, no, like, I think, like, what's like what's sort of structurally very fascinating is that they like have a go at like having a thing and then like exploring sort of different aspects of like, oh yeah, no, what if like, because like there is this through line of like specifically access to like physical sensation, right? Um that is sort of, that does tie the first two stories together, right? And
I would even say the third, right? Like, because it's a lot about the direct physical pain of it.
but no one's accessing it, right?
I guess, yeah. I see
Like
what you
that
mean.
what it like it
It's more
it's
exploiting
close,
it, right?
but yeah, no, like, but you know, it's like it's this sort of like network of like partially linked ideas.
Yeah, like a lot of it, I guess. Like if you wanted to try writing up a bigger theme about it, I think you could talk about like the blurring of individual bodies, right?
Mhm.
I think that could be an interesting thing to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like, you know, we do the thing like this is the solution to the thing we're always mad about, where it's like, listen, Charlie Brooker, you can't just like hint at 5 different cool ideas
Yeah,
and then not execute on any of them properly, right? And here's like, well, you just sort of execute on some things like at a smaller scale, and then like, but like keep it a bit more tied together. So like we're like, well, maybe that'll be explored in the next short story in the next episode.
I also think that like genuinely, if you're making this sort of like very short, like because each story is what like 10-15 minutes.
I think they're very unbalanced, probably.
Yeah, probably, but like at somewhere in the range of like 10 to 25 minutes. Yeah, that's probably a bit too much, but I think like if you're making those sorts of stories, leaving more threads like open is fine, right? Like because it can be more of a snapshot into like, hey, I have this cool idea about a technology, and we're gonna tell like a little story about it, and then we're gonna be like, oh man, wouldn't it like maybe you should think about how this could work elsewhere.
Yeah, no, like that's sort of what I was like, what I was thinking at first, that this was that they were just like, oh man, we've reached the end of the season, but we still have some things on like the big whiteboard left. Let's just like mush them all together. And maybe that's what happened, but they didn't stop there.
Yeah.
And it sort of they got weird with it.
Yeah, like it's one of those things too, where it's just like when you tell like a 1 hour, let's say you tell a 1 hour and 20 minute story about space robots who also have space people who have fleshy robots on Earth, and then you spend that entire time doing nothing with it. I'm gonna punish it a little bit more when I go like, man, there is a lot of potential here, and you did nothing with it. Than if it's like a 15-minute short story.
Yeah. It's time economy.
I also do think, like, genuinely, as much as I do think this episode is enjoyable, it is definitely not Black Mirror's best work. I think we can agree on that, but I think it's above average.
I mean, I'm like genuinely very hung up on that like tonal mismatch, because like it like so like falls so short on like saying anything meaningful about like racism or prison industrial stuff or like any of these themes that it just like hard veers into, and it just like we're like very we're like the opposite of like well equipped to deal with this at this point, because we've been having like some slapstick and some like grotesque hell shit, and now it's like we're gonna get serious. Now we're gonna get social commentary.
Now we're gonna talk about a thing that actually directly happens, essentially.
And like I was like, it makes me genuinely uncomfortable, because like you're doing the voyeurism shit though. Like you're doing the thing, right?
Do you? Okay, sorry, go on.
Like you're doing the thing. You're saying like, oh yeah, no, like righteous indignation shit. Like that's fucked up, isn't it? Like you're just like killing. You're just like seeing bad people punished, and like that's not the level of analysis I want for this, right? Like I don't want just like haha dramatic irony. Like I want something like that's even like on an emotional level, like deeper, and it's just like we just do not get this, and it really like rams the episode into a complete wall for me. Like what like if you just like cut out like the first short story, if you cut out the second short story for me, I would be like, you know what? Pleasant, enjoyable, whatever. Like, there's something interesting here. I can work with this.
Yeah, I don't know if pleasant is the right word, but I get where you're coming from.
You know, it's a good watch. Or
it's interesting.
Yeah. And this one just like drags everything into this pit of like failed social commentary, and like also like quite unambitious, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, no, we've got like 10 minutes of episode left.
Throw in the racism.
Yeah, and it's like that just really, really like ruins it.
I feel like I'm starting to conceptualize a bit of the Black Mirror writing process. Like, they start with this like idea, start with a script, and then once they have a pretty good episode, Charlie Brooker sits down at his writing desk, and his possessed right arm takes over and starts writing dramatic irony, unfaithfulness, very dumb twists, and occasional, very ham-fisted social commentary.
Ironically, like, unfaithfulness as like a minor theme in this episode, because again, partner trapped in partner's head while that partner's trying to move on with his life. I didn't even think about that. Like, I think that's like one of the most interesting and nuanced takes like we've seen so far.
Because that, like, I think like if you took out that story and you made it into a bigger one, I think it could be, you know, like, sure, not the most subtle thing in the world, but like a very interesting thing about like, oh yeah, like, you have a dead partner who you loved very much. You're trying to move on, but you also want to respect them. Like, that's interesting.
What if they're a bitch?
Yeah, what if they are? What if they were a bitch? Like,
yeah.
What if, you know, you were at your partner's bedside and the last thing they say is, never remarry, just grieve me forever.
Yeah, no, like, and this, like, there's just, like, this is, like, a very interesting take on this. And, like, just, like, giving Charlie Brooker some, like, half-deserved credit here. But yeah, no, like, it genuinely just, like, it just veers off into a wall.
I feel like I have to pose the question, the spicy question here. Would this episode have been noticeably better if the killer was white?
Yeah.
That's messed up, right?
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because it's pure, like, showboating, right? It's not like, oh man, I wonder why, like, black people, like, get victimized more. It's just like, well, we both know this, therefore you're supposed to be, like, particularly upset. You're supposed to see the evil in this, just sort of by, like, being hinted at.
And it just makes it so much more unfocused, right? Because I think if you remove the race aspect, you actually have like a more coherent story about voyeurism and righteous sadism.
Yeah.
Like a lot more even, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, and like it's not like the racial aspect is irrelevant to like the concept of true crime, or like, yeah, that like righteous indignation at like, oh, this terrible black person has done this horrible thing, we need to punish them to unleash our internal need for vengeance or whatever. But like, do we trust Charlie Brooker to write that?
I mean, I trust him to write anything more than this.
Yeah, it's that, and it's just like, I think there is a point to this that like there's no depth to that, right? Like it's like Black Mirror. You know, I don't know if Black Mirror is considered hyper woke, but like, you know, probably. I don't feel like the audience is gonna be like, nah, you know what, racism is good. Like, it's just gonna be like like that's bad, but like, what more do you want me to say about it?
I mean, I guess like the shallowness really is just like, because like the only people that are going to be like, I thought this episode was a bit unfair to racism, are going to be like the Ku Klux Klan, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like this very inoffensive, low level of analysis.
Yeah.
And fuck that.
It's also like, I think there's a weird, like, sort of like conflation at the end there, where it's like, oh yeah, like, a big demographic for people who came in to sort of digitally kill this man were like white supremacists who also wanted to literally like masturbate to his death. And I'm like, I feel like I don't know, it's just kind of getting a lot of messages crossed, isn't it?
Yeah, no, like, it was kind of unclear, like, I guess, like, even that could have, that could have been a, like, interesting exploration, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
Like, that would have been, like, okay, like, if you're gonna go there, like, actually go there in, like, any depth. But no, it's, like, just shock value.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is how we end season 4.
Yeah, I'm desperately trying to think, like, if they're, like, I guess, like, you're sort of like, he's, like, trying to show up the audience a bit take is, like, the most, like, coherent, like, reading we can pull together for this episode. I'm honestly not that happy with it, because I don't...
No, because I think, like, in that one, I don't know exactly where to place the second story, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can say voyeurism and, like, do a hand motion, a Jedi mind trick on you, but, like, it doesn't say much, right? Like we're not in Charlie Brooker's head.
Yeah, no, like, it's the mindfuck anthology, I guess.
I guess so.
And, like, you know, that could have been fine if it had stayed, like, a bit more separate. But it didn't.
No.
And that's why I couldn't recommend it in the beginning.
I think that's fair. I still think that Douglas Hodge's performance is beautiful, and I think people should witness him.
He is working so hard
I know.
to, like, make this episode something, and he's getting there for most of the time. And then, like, he stops being there in the end, right? And he's...
Yeah, he gets to be like the target of the speech, right? But he doesn't get to be a character anymore.
Fun evil, like, does not work in that role. So, like, what could you have him say? Like, he has to shut up for the thing to happen, but like, because otherwise, like, it would get really weird.
Because it's not like he's at the very end here, after everything we've seen him do, is suddenly gonna be like, I'm gonna argue for a more nuanced take on my evil. Like, no, man, like, he's like the carny devil. He shows up and he's like, would you like to ruin your life?
Yeah, no, like, we don't get any implication that he's racist. Like, he's just... Well, maybe, but, you know, not, like, substantively.
Yeah, but he's a profiteer. I mean, that could have been an interesting way to go with things.
Yeah, sure could have.
Yeah, sure could have been. I mean, like, I think, to be fair, like, they aren't fully going down that route. Like, no. They aren't really hinting towards it properly.
No, like, it's just sort of ambient.
Yeah, and I also, like, I don't know, like, I think there are, like, 3 tiers here, right? Like, there's the actually exploring a theme. Below that is, like, hinting at a theme, and then there's, like, not even really hinting at a theme. And this one, I think, is at the bottom tier.
Yeah. No, and, like, to be, like, that's... I feel like that's a fair way to go about it. Because, you know, you need your dystopia to have color and flavor.
Yeah, and, like, I think it's not, like, a crazy thing to be like, yeah, maybe he isn't, like, personally racist, but, like, he still profits from it.
Yeah, no, and, you know, he seems... Well, he has very personal reasons to be invested in this man's guilt.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can jump that up to racism either.
No, it seems like...
But yeah, no, like, oh god. Like, I was saying during the episode...
Yeah, you were really excited.
I mean, I feel like I'm just, like, getting the Black Mirror experience of, like, getting excited that, we've got a good one, and then just really getting yanked.
I think this is a little bit of what I was saying, is that this is one of the most Black Mirrors, where, like, you can really feel the ups and downs in that order, unfortunately.
It's always that order, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, next week, we're going to be...
recapping.
We're gonna summarize season 4. We're gonna gather our feelings. We're gonna... And this is the biggest season yet.
It is, yeah. Like, what was it? Season 6 had, like, 5 episodes? Mm-hmm. This one has 6.
Yeah.
And we even have this little anthology to mine even more content from.
Yeah, no, it's like 2 extra episodes, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I'm curious about one thing. Like, have you noticed a difference that we can discuss in the coming recap episode compared to previous seasons we watched? Like a different vibe.
I haven't thought about it yet.
Then we will return to that in said recap episode.
All right. See you on the other side.
And make sure to bring your monkey plush consciousness with you.
Yeah, no, don't do that to people. It's banned by the UN, for fuck's sake.